thought of the day. Just because something is a stupid idea, does that mean that it will fail? Does that mean that it can't succeed? And I want you to put this into perspective by considering Christianity. There was a time when people would have looked at Christianity and said, you know, this Christianity is just a fad, a phase. No one will ever take it seriously. I mean, just look at the stupid ideas it has at its core. And now you scroll the clock forward to today, where the largest religious denomination in the world is Catholicism. And what is the core dogma of Catholicism? That you had a dirt man and a rib woman who were convinced by a talking snake to eat magical fruit. And that caused a blood curse, that all of the children afterwards would be cursed. And so the God who had created the dirt man, the rib woman, the talking snake, and the magical fruit, decides that the only way he can cure that curse is to make himself into a human and get himself killed in a way that regular criminals at the time got killed. You know, the sort of electric chair of the day. He got crucified. And the reason he had to get crucified was such that afterwards, when priests said magical incantations over bread and wine, that bread and wine would turn into flesh and blood of the celestial zombie of when he got crucified. And if people eat the flesh and drink the blood, this is a literal transformation, the transubstantiation. This is what they believe in. You have to eat the physical flesh of their God and drink the blood, and that will cure the sins of when dirt man and rib woman were convinced by a talking snake to eat cursed fruit. This is the core dogma of the most popular religion on earth. And many might say, well, yeah, but it built up a lot of momentum. You know, it got a lot of name recognition. It's not really a fair comparison. What you got from modern history? I want an example where this sort of happened in recent times. So, okay, let's take a look at, say, for instance, Mormonism, where a known God man claims that he's been visited by an angel who takes him into the woods and essentially gives him the Book of Mormon, which describes the history of how there's a lost tribe of Israel which comes to America. Yeah, America is the promised land of God's chosen people. Who would have thought it? Anyway, in this book, it describes how this lost tribe came to America, and there are good ones and bad ones, and they built huge civilizations, which is demonstrably false, and eventually the bad ones won, and so God cursed them by turning their skin red. Yeah, okay, well, whatever. And all of it's demonstrably false. You can do the tests, the genetic tests on the Native Americans, and it turns out they came from the sort of Polynesian side, not from the sort of Israel side. Okay, so the core dogma is bullshit. And which brings us on to feminism. Right? So feminism, you scroll the clock back, you know, to the beginning of the century, feminism had real meat in its grievances. And now you take a look at it and you have, what do you have? You have manspreading and Anita Sarkeesian bitching about how video games cause sexism. And they have now a dogma, the patriarchy. Right? It's something that no one ever bothers to actually demonstrate. It's always suppressing women. Even when there are no rules on the book, it's still suppressing women somehow. Even when we live in democracies where the majority of people who can vote are women, they still say that, yeah, but it's the patriarchy suppressing women somehow. It's like, no. But I mean, for the example I want to take Anita Sarkeesian, because for me it's fascinating. It's a sort of it's an example that can we now, with the internet, defeat demonstrably wrong ideas like this? Because the thing that's interesting about Anita is the core hypothesis of her entire series is that video games cause sexism. That's her central dogma. Video games cause sexism. That's what she researches. And the problem is that when real people do studies on this, they find that there is no significant correlation between video games and sexism. The core dogma of her entire series is bullshit, and yet she has still managed to convince people to give her almost $1 million to look at this. And so, for me, it's a fascinating little sort of test tube on YouTube, so to speak, in that I'm curious, can we now, in the modern era, actually, because an idea is demonstrably false, actually defeat such ideas? Can we get them thrown on the junk pile where they actually demonstrably should be? And, you know, if I was a cynic, I would say, look to history. You've not got a snowball's chance in hell of doing this. But me, I like a good fight. And as they say, nothing fails like never trying. Anyway, thought of the day.